By the time Lee "Buck" Trevino became a major champion, golf already knew how to package him. The smile, the jokes, the fast mouth, the low fade that cut through wind like it had been built in a garage instead of a country club. To the public, he was easy to love. A poor kid from Texas who made the rich man's game feel less stiff. A working-class champion who laughed loudly enough to make the galleries forget how unlikely his presence really was. That was the clean version. Then came the number. 4 rounds in the 60s. 69, 68, 69, 69. At the 1,968 U.S. Open, Trevino did something no player had ever done in that championship before. He did not just win. He answered the course 4 straight days under 70. The number made the story harder to control, because this was not a polished prodigy arriving through the approved pipeline. This was not a country club son trained from childhood, protected by access, lessons, time, and money. This was a former caddie, a money game player, a marine, a range worker, a man who had learned golf through labor, pressure, and repetition, not privilege. Golf did not invite him in, so he found another way inside. That is where the Lee Trevino file begins to change shape. The public saw the trophy. The industry saw something more uncomfortable. If a man built outside the system could beat the system at its own hardest examination, then maybe the system had not been identifying talent as cleanly as it claimed. Maybe it had only been identifying the talent it could already see. Trevino's childhood was not a golf academy story. It was poverty, work, and survival in Texas. His family did not hand him a junior membership. The game first appeared to him as a job. Carry the bag. Watch the player. Keep quiet. Learn while someone else owns the tee time. That was his first classroom. Caddies see golf from a strange angle. They stand close enough to study power, but far enough away to know they do not belong to it. They hear how men speak when money is involved. They see who panics, who blames the course, who protects his image, and who cannot survive pressure once the polite mask drops. Trevino learned that version early. Not theory, not swing models. Pressure, the kind that comes before cameras, before endorsement deals, before galleries clap politely. A $5 match could matter more to a poor man than a major putt matters to a millionaire. That kind of education leaves scars, but it also leaves information. Golf's official culture talked about etiquette. Trevino's early world taught him leverage. If you could hit the shot when the other man needed you to miss, you had power. If your ball kept obeying under pressure, background mattered less. That was the first side door. Then came another one. The Marines did not make Trevino a champion, but they hardened what was already there. Discipline, endurance, repetition without applause. A life where comfort was not part of the bargain. After that, the driving range became less like practice and more like a factory. Ball after ball, hour after hour. Not because it looked beautiful, because it worked. His swing never looked like something built to please a teacher. The open stance, the cut, the low flight, it looked almost defiant. But Trevino was not building a museum swing. He was building a shot that could survive bad lies, wind, pressure, and fear. Country club golf often rewarded appearance first. Trevino trusted results. That difference would follow him for the rest of his career. For a while, the establishment could still reduce him to a local character, a hustler from Texas, a talker, a good story from the margins. Golf has always had room for outsiders, as long as they remain useful as color and harmless to the hierarchy. The problem starts when the outsider travels. In 1965, Trevino won the Texas State Open. That win did not make him a national star, but it turned rumor into record. The man people talked about now had a result that could be printed, checked, and remembered. A side door player had left evidence. By 1967, he was on the PGA Tour. At the U.S. Open that year, he finished close enough to make people look again. Not all the way, not seriously enough, but enough to notice that the joke-telling Texan could play under serious conditions. Still, the old language followed him. Colorful, entertaining, a character. Those words sounded friendly. Sometimes they were, but they also kept the threat contained. If the public focused on the personality, the industry did not have to explain how a man like this had developed beyond its view. Then Oak Hill arrived. The 1968 U.S. Open should have been too severe for a player the system had not prepared. The U.S. Open is designed to strip away comfort. It exposes soft swings, weak nerves, and false reputations. Trevino did not collapse. He kept answering. 69, 68, 69, 69. No single lucky round, no Sunday accident, no simple explanation. The scorecard said he had been ready before golf was ready to recognize him. That win turned Trevino into a public hero, a blue-collar champion, a man who seemed to prove that golf was open to anyone tough enough to win. There was truth in that, but not the whole truth. Because Trevino's story also showed how much talent had to survive outside the official structure before it could be celebrated inside it. Golf did not discover him early. It accepted him late, after the evidence became impossible to ignore. That distinction matters. A system can celebrate an outsider after he wins, and still remain a system that nearly missed him. In the years that followed, Trevino made the problem harder to dismiss. A one-time major winner can be explained away. A pattern cannot. In 1971, he beat Jack Nicklaus in a U.S. Open playoff at Marion. Nicklaus was not just another great player. He represented the center of golf's future. Power, order, preparation, authority. Trevino beat him anyway. Then he won the Canadian Open, then the Open Championship. The run was too compressed, too public, too serious. Suddenly the funny outsider was not just making golf more entertaining. He was taking its most protected trophies. That is when the story becomes less comfortable. The system had not created Trevino, but now it could use him. His poverty became inspirational. His jokes became television. His nickname became marketable. His difference became proof that golf was broader than people thought. The industry benefited from that image. So did Trevino. Both can be true. He got the trophies, the money, the stage, and the respect he had forced from the game. Golf got a human face, a working-class story, a champion who softened the country club image without requiring the country club to fully examine itself. That was the bargain. But bargains have shadows. Not everyone would call this exclusion. Some would argue Trevino simply took a difficult path, and that every sport has unusual routes to greatness. They would say there was no single conspiracy, no written rule keeping him out, no hidden committee deciding his future. That caution is fair. The public record does not prove a plot against Lee Trevino. The deeper issue is quieter. Golf did not need a plot. The price of access did much of the work. So did geography. So did class. So did time. So did the assumption that serious golfers came from serious golf environments. A locked door is easy to see. A filtered pathway is harder. Trevino's life kept finding gaps in that pathway. Caddying gave him proximity. Money games gave him pressure. The Marines gave him discipline. Driving ranges gave him volume. Texas tournaments gave him proof. The PGA Tour gave him a scoreboard. Each step was different. Together, they formed the pattern. When the front door was closed, Trevino did not wait outside. He found the place where performance mattered more than permission. Then he won there. Again and again. That is why his humor should not be mistaken for lightness. The jokes were real. The charm was real. But they also worked like armor. In rooms where he did not fully belong, Trevino controlled the air by talking first. He made people laugh before they could decide what to do with him. The public heard entertainment. The sharper reading is survival. A man from the margins had learned how to enter elite spaces without begging for comfort. Smile, talk, hit the shot, make them laugh, take the trophy. The order mattered, because the swing alone was not the whole performance. Trevino was not only playing courses, he was playing rooms, expectations, and social codes that had not been built with him in mind. That is what made him dangerous to the old image of golf. He did not attack the institution directly. He made it look incomplete. Every major win asked the same question in a different form. How many players had been overlooked because they did not arrive in the right packaging? How many caddies understood the game better than the members they served? How many talents were never called promising because they were too busy working to be developed? Trevino became proof of possibility, but proof of possibility can hide proof of failure. If one Lee Trevino breaks through, the crowd cheers. If there were others who never got close, the system stays quiet. That is the part the myth cannot answer. By the time Trevino was embraced, The harder story had already been softened. The poor boy had made it. The game had opened. The audience could feel good. But the colder version remains underneath. He was not evidence that the door had always been open. He was evidence that a locked door can be beaten by someone strong enough, stubborn enough, and lucky enough to find another entrance. That is not the same thing. And it is not only a story about the past. Modern golf now speaks the language of data, academies, biomechanics, elite coaching, and global talent pipelines. The tools have changed, the filters remain. Who gets measured early? Who gets funded? Who gets called raw? Who gets called gifted? Who receives patience? Who is treated as marketable only after the numbers become impossible to deny? Trevino's career sits behind those questions like an old warning. The industry can miss genius when genius does not look like its preferred customer. It can laugh with an outsider while still failing to understand what made him dangerous. It can celebrate a champion and avoid asking why he had to build himself alone. Go back to Oak Hill. 4 rounds in the 60s. At first, it sounds like a record. After the timeline, it sounds like pressure applied to an entire sport. Not proof of a crime, not proof of a conspiracy. A record of recognition arriving late. Golf did not choose Lee Trevino. Maybe that was the point. He came through the side door. He won in the main room. And afterward, the room pretended the door had been open the whole time.